Democratic strategist and News Nation contributor, Kurt Bardella. Good morning to both of you. Rena, I'll start with you. Let's start with those battleground states and those razor-thin margins. We see the economy as a top issue. Not a surprise for any of us, I have no doubt. What should the Trump campaign be doing to capitalize on voters' concerns about the economy every time they go to the grocery store?
Well, the economy is a feeling evermore. And when you speak in data points about the Biden administration's success, you do get a sense that this is an administration that by and large had policies that helped us have a successful, again, recovery post-pandemic, because we still 4 years out now have a lot of that impact continuing to stay with us, particularly when we talk about supply chains. And that doesn't get discussed as much. So if I were advising the Trump campaign, which I'm not, I would say continue to hammer Bidenomics, but go easy. Because here's the double-edged sword, is that a lot of the inflationary policies that Biden had to undertake in the past 3 to 4 years in particular, I would say the past 2 years, much of that Trump is also going to have to take on if he re-enters the White House next year. So this is tricky, but you can capitalize on feelings about the economy, particularly on the price of daily commodities, which have not come down in the way in which most Americans, whether we're talking about the state of California or the state of South Carolina, Maine, all the way down to Texas, everybody is feeling.
That is so true. Kurt, with this election likely coming down to those 7 battleground states, is the Harris campaign doing enough to sell voters on her economic agenda?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that each campaign will try to define what this race is about. And if you're Kamala Harris, I think you look at past voter behavior as an indicator of really how much the economy resonates. Because listen, in the 2022 midterms, the number one issue for voters reportedly was the economy. The second issue was crime and immigration. And what ended up happening? No red wave. Despite all the money and all the rhetorical flair we saw from Republicans talking about the economy, Biden's approval numbers were upside down, inflation was high. They were not able to translate that into major electoral success that was expected of them. Why? Because the issue of abortion, because of women's rights, because of Roe v. Wade being overturned, that propelled female voters to participate in the process at a larger clip with more enthusiasm than anyone had expected. And in every election that we have had, and I say this all the time, and I'll keep saying it all the way to November, every time we have had an election, forget about polls, but an election, voters have shown that this issue resonates more than what the economy polls say, what the approval numbers say, and what we have heard from Republicans and Donald Trump and J.D. Vance this election cycle and how they use misogyny and sexism to attack Kamala Harris all the time. I think they're setting themselves up for that same process and cycle to repeat itself.
And as both of you know, we finally got one of those long-awaited interviews from Harris earlier this week. She addressed the economy. She addressed inflation. Here's what she had to say.
When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it. I know it.
Kurt, like Rena mentioned, like most Americans are saying, prices are still high. But do you think their voters are going to be thinking that when they go to the voting booth in November, in about 10 weeks? What's in their checking account? Will that equate to who they're going to vote for?
I don't
Millions of voters, the economy remains.
I'm sorry, Rena, go ahead.
Kurt, first, please, and then Rena, I'd love to get your input as well.
Okay, sure.
I think it's interesting because the more that Trump and Republicans use a term like Bidenomics, to me, that goes, yeah, the economy may not be where you want it to be, and you may not feel as much in your checkbook, but that's a Joe Biden problem. That's not a Kamala Harris problem. I hope that Trump and Republicans keep saying Bidenomics. Say Biden as much as possible. Keep running this race as if Joe Biden is on the ballot, because polling has shown voters do not associate the challenges with the economy and some of the unpopular elements of the Biden administration directly to Kamala Harris.
So, Rena, expanding on that, we often talk about Main Street versus Wall Street. Look, the stock market is doing great. It broke records yesterday. Retirement portfolios are sitting pretty. They're doing a lot better. Record profits are on the corporate side. Inflation's coming down slowly but surely. Fed is poised to cut interest rates in September. What point will voter sentiment, that feeling you mentioned, catch up with the improvements that we are seeing in the economy?
Well, I fear that it's not going to happen before November. And I'm a little less optimistic because there's been plenty of time for Bidenomics to have this, again, positive impact on the mind of that middle America voter. And middle America is a good thing because when we take the temperature, we talk about really what's most important. It's not those retirement accounts which are doing well. It's this sense that maybe the price of living is never going to come down, and the affordability factor of various things, whether it's rent, all the way down to, children's goods. And I heard VP Harris give a nod to that twice this past week in her sit down. She mentioned tax credits a couple times for children, parents of children, expanding that. But that's also something Trump has talked about. That talk of tax credits was interesting, Henna, though, because when she talked about bringing manufacturing back to within American borders, and again, tax credits for small businesses as well, she sounded more like a Republican to me. And I think that's an interesting play she's making right now. And I think that strategy might serve her well in the next couple of weeks. So when I heard Senator J.D. Vance's response to that, I didn't feel he had quite a robust or well-equipped response because, again, this was territory that Republicans typically message in. He kept talking about common sense policies. That was something she did this past week in that sit down. So I think it's going to be interesting to continue to watch how both of these tickets message on the economy. But one fact is there: the success of the American economy is wrongly tied to the success of American presidency. There's no empirical data telling us one leads to the direct success of another.
Kurt, I see you nodding, both of you agreeing on that last point. Rena Shah, Kurt Bardella, thanks for waking up with us this morning, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you can watch the new series, Kurt's Country, on News Nation's YouTube page. Much more.